I know some coaches online, they really talk about, I made six figures in my first year. And you know what? I'm so happy for those people. That was not my journey. It took a while to reach that. It's going to be a different process for you, but it's really important that you do it. If that's your purpose, if that's on your heart to serve a certain community, do it. You can find a way. Persist. Dance isn't all of who we are. It is a medium of expression in which parts of us feel welcome to come out.
Welcome to Recast and Rise, the podcast for performers and creatives ready to explore what's next. You'll hear inspiring stories of artists who reinvented themselves and found new careers after the stage. Let's recast and rise. Hello, Kirsten.
Hi, Eve. I'm excited for our conversation.
Thank you. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited you're here.
Me
you
too.
are very special because you are still performing and you make such a difference for the dancers community, which we're going to talk all about it in a few minutes. You're going to share about what you do now as a career and all that fun stuff. But first, can you share with us what you are doing as a performer?
Yes, absolutely. And I also really appreciate what you do, helping with career transition, because I know it is really something special to be an artist and to have a short career that you're very, very, very passionate about, and then to have to start over or choose to start over. Some of us like, oh, I have to because of an injury, like in my case, and then sometimes it's more gradual and on our own terms. But anyway, just want to tell you, I appreciate what you do. So when I was dancing, I was in a ballet company. Ballet was my whole life, basically from the time I started dancing when I was 6, but I got really, really serious about it when I was 12. And then from then on, I just knew I wanted to be a professional dancer. So I ended up going from my small town studio in South Texas that was very recreational to then training at the Houston Ballet Academy. And then I went to the University of Utah, where I graduated with a BFA in ballet, and I also studied business. And then I danced professionally with Oklahoma City Ballet. And now I get to dance for fun, and I do little freelance contracts here and there, but it's really for the joy of it, which is really wonderful.
So great. You traveled a lot. Dance brought you all over the country.
Yeah, as it does for a lot of people.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So thank you so much for that. Now, tell us about how you mentioned an injury. Is that what kind of put a term to your career, or?
Yes. So, it was one of those experiences that was very, very difficult. A lot of dancers or performers face injury or just unexpected circumstances like that bring your career into a transition earlier than you would have wanted. And that was certainly the case for me. I had just started dancing professionally. It was my first season. It was like dream come true. It was everything I wanted. I was so, so, so excited. I got to tour. I got to perform in the ballets I really wanted to be a part of. And it was so wonderful. And then an old knee injury that I first had when I was 14, and it just kind of kept coming back. It came back again, but this time worse. And I had always gotten over it. So I thought like, okay, this sucks, but I'll just get over it. And I kept pushing through, which was really, now I don't blame myself because I know what was going through my mind at the time, but it was not the most wise thing for me to do for my body. So I ended up making it worse. And after that first season, I came back for a second season, and a few months in, I had to get knee surgery, to more fully heal. And then at that point, it was time to audition for another company because I knew I wouldn't have a contract for the next year because I'd barely been dancing at the company that I was with at the time. And I just knew I wasn't in a place physically to be able to go through audition season. So it was very painful and very hard physically, obviously, but also emotionally and mentally to feel like, okay, my dream had come true. And all the really, really hard work I'd put in for so many years had pretty much come to fruition, but it was just the beginning, and I had hoped for so much more. And so obviously that was devastating, but I now see that it was so used for good in my life. And I learned so many things about myself that ended up leading me to the coaching career that I have now. And so, of course, now that I see in hindsight all the amazing things that came from it, I know the pain that I went through and it was significant, but it led me to something really, really important. And I'm so grateful that that painful time in my life led me to realize that I had a gift and a desire to help other dancers in their journeys have a more empowering experience and to be able to use the power of their mind to perform to their fullest with joy. So, yes, in hindsight, I'm grateful for everything that came out of it, but it was hard.
Oh, I can only imagine, especially when you want to do so much more and your body just decides otherwise. And nope, not
Yes,
going to happen.
yes,
I feel for you totally. Yeah. And
yeah,
now, okay, that was not, to your point, that was probably not the best at the time, but let's talk about the Confident Dancer, your coaching
yes,
platform. So that
yes.
got started after. So yeah,
Yeah,
tell
it
us about
did.
that.
Yes. Okay. So this is where it feels pretty miraculous and literally like divine intervention that I got introduced to coaching at the time that I did. And I completely believe it was like my faith is a big part of my life as a Christian. And I just see like how God just introduced me to coaching like right at the right time. And it made sense. And I was available and I was more open-minded than ever to just try anything because after I had to stop dancing, I was like, well, I don't have anything else to do. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I had studied business in college and I thought I was going to go into a career in finance because I did really well in my finance classes and accounting in school. And my dad has his own wealth management firm. And so I thought, oh, I would just go into that. And for some reason at the time where it actually was the moment to act at that on that plan, I had already interviewed for a master's of finance program at a good university, and it looked like I had a path to getting in. But in my soul, I just did not feel pulled in that direction at all. And then what happened was basically to make a long story more condensed and efficient here, because I can make it very long. There was a lot there. I have a twin sister, an identical twin, and she used to dance. She stopped also because of an injury earlier than me, but she ended up going into a tech career, tech consulting. And she also was finding that she did not feel that job was a fit for her. She was going to transition into another career. She discovered coaching as a career. And I thought, oh, interesting. Coaching, what's that? I had heard about life coaching, and this sounds so bad, but I was pretty judgmental about it because I thought, what is life coaching? I don't know. It just sounds like fluff. It sounds kind of silly, to be honest. And now I've learned to be very careful about what I judge because I tend to become what I judge. So I'm a lot more careful now. But anyway, so my sister had found that she wanted to do career coaching. So I was learning more about that career path from her. And she said, Kirsten, I signed up for the certification program to become a coach. I'm going to quit my job. The training is partially in person and you can bring a guest for free to this in-person training. You don't have anything to do. Why don't you come with me? And I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll be busy. I was interviewing for other jobs, like business type jobs, entry level positions. And I thought, well, maybe I'll have a job by then. So I don't know. I think I'll be busy. Long story short, I ended up going to this coaching certification program. And I realized within a few hours of being there, oh my gosh, this is so much of what I love to do very unofficially and untrained with peers. And I had already had a YouTube channel where I had talked to dancers about ballet, that world, how to navigate it, giving advice. And so I thought, okay, I have a platform where I reach people. I already love to help people and share advice, although coaching isn't advice giving necessarily. It's more guiding people through inner work and discovering their own path and their own answers. But I found coaching and it just made sense. I had realized that so many of the times when I was injured and I couldn't dance, I was in a position to receive a lot of encouragement from other people, but I found that I was feeling purposeful in the moments where my friends would come to me when I was sitting on the side watching rehearsal with my little bum leg and I couldn't really walk. They would come to me and say, I just want to talk through this thing. And I would love it. I loved to support them and ask them questions and challenge their way of thinking. And I had also found that when I was watching my peers, because I was not physically able to do what they were doing at that time, it completely changed how I saw their ability. I used to have that self-critical lens that I saw myself through. And of
Mm.
course, I would see other people in that way. And suddenly that just went away when I realized how amazing it is that we can even jump, that as
Yeah.
ballet dancers, we can stand on our toes, that we can balance, that we can hold our leg up. It was amazing to me all of a sudden. It's like I was seeing it with fresh eyes. And yet that highlighted how common it was for all my peers and me at one point to see the opposite in ourselves. It's never good enough. I can't do
Hmm.
it. Always being so self-critical. And so what I was seeing was, wait, I see how our mind as performers impacts not only our well-being, our satisfaction, our experience day to day, our confidence, but also our performance. I would see how my peers and me at one point, we would beat ourselves up and that would shut us down and make us small or inhibit it in our movement. Or I used to experience a lot of performance anxiety. And anyway, long story short, I started to wake up to the reality that our mind needs to be addressed if we want to unlock our full potential as performers. So
Hmm.
basically, I decided to sign up for that coaching certification like that weekend that I joined as a guest. I signed up and then I just decided, okay, I'm going to be a coach. And I figured it all out like as I went. I started to, shift my online platform to focus more on the mental side of dance. And now I've just built a specialty in doing what I call high performance mindset coaching, just basically like helping dancers master the mental side of dance. As I say, it's overcoming things like self-doubt and self-trust issues, performance anxiety, perfectionism, comparison, and really equipping them with the mental strategies and skills to, and also walking them through the inner work to be
Yeah.
able to really perform to their fullest potential with joy and confidence. So I said long story short, that was kind of long story long, but
Oh,
that's what I do and how I got there, basically.
first of all, I love this. You gave it a shot. You had nothing to lose.
Yeah,
You're
I
like, you
didn't.
know what? I'm gonna go. And here you are. I believe in
Yeah.
that so much and just taking actions and it will lead you to maybe a path that you didn't expect. And
Yes.
look at you now. I mean, you're passionate. Your light is so obvious. I mean, you're
Oh,
shining. It's
thank you.
beautiful. Yes, yes.
Thank you.
If I may, the platform, if the course is still there, so whoever is interested in potentially starting or they are looking into potentially following like a coaching path, what
Mhm.
is the name of that course or
Yeah, the
what is it?
certification.
Yeah, the certification.
Yeah, yeah. So there are several that I've done. I started with the IPEC coaching certification program. It's IPEC stands for the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. They do a good, just like baseline program to get started with if you are interested in honestly any sort of niche in coaching, because what's important to know, people who are interested in coaching might already be aware of this, but coaching is such a broad skill set that needs specificity in how you apply it and who you apply it with in order to be successful in a career sense with coaching. Like if
Hmm.
you just say, I'm a coach, that doesn't mean a lot to people. Even being like a life coach, it's a lot more effective to choose a specialty. Like with me, I started with a general coaching certification just to kind of figure out how to be a coach. What does that even mean? What are the boundaries, the guidelines, the ethical guidelines as well? Because that's really important. Um, Starting to learn the skill of it. But then in order to build a business and an audience and a program to help people, I had to narrow down a lot and say, okay, I help
Yeah.
dancers. And that's really my advice for people who are interested in becoming a coach. Yes, get a certification for sure. I can recommend IPEC. It was a good place to get started. But then you need to choose who you serve and exactly what challenges you help them with and what end result that you want to help them achieve. And then it's much easier to build on other certifications and skill sets. Like I got certified in neuro-linguistic programming. I did the practitioner level, master practitioner, and then the trainer level because I just loved the modality for
Mm.
helping with essentially mental change. So helping
Yeah.
people understand how to shift their state for optimum performance, overcome limiting beliefs, and all sorts of self-sabotaging patterns. It's really good for that. So
Yep.
I can recommend that as well. But there are so many different added modalities you can learn that
Yep.
will enhance the value you're able to give as a coach. So
Yep.
that's what I did.
And I think being a coach as well is one leg. You are also a business owner.
Yes,
You don't need to learn marketing. You need to, I mean, there are you need to be versatile in almost everything.
so true.
So let's say that you do the certification, check. What would you say are other skills or what would you recommend to someone who would like to follow that path? Then what would be next?
Mhm.
How would you set them up for success now that you probably made some mistakes? Hopefully not, but you probably learn along the way. What would you recommend
Oh,
to
yeah.
someone so they can skip some of those mistakes to kind of go faster in the path, following that
Yes,
path?
yes, certainly. So, okay, with coaching,
Quick pause. If you are a performer wondering what's next, let's connect. Book a call with me or send me a message and visit my website where you can find more tips and tricks to navigate your career change. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more inspiring stories and career tools. Now back to our chat.
I heard this advice and it took me a while to actually implement it. And so now if I would have gone back, I would have just done this sooner. It is so true that if you learn this in your first certification, that it's really helpful to just get started with some clients that you coach for free, just to learn. Like this could be friends, friends of friends, people in your network, people. If you already have an audience on social media, you could offer 5 spots for coaching and do like 3 sessions or something like that, or just a distinct program. And you do that not only for your own experience, but do it for an exchange of their feedback and also a testimonial. That is so helpful for not only informing for you your own confidence of, oh, they found this particular aspect of what I did very helpful. Great. Double down on that. Get even better at it. This part was not very helpful. Great. Take that feedback, grow, learn, change it. Awesome. But then also the testimonial that you can gain from them. It's a great exchange. You learn, they get help for free. And then you also get that testimonial that you can put on your website. The more social proof you can give on your website, social media, even when you speak to people in person and connect with them and say they're interested maybe in working with you or they know someone who is, if you're able to say, yeah, I helped this person with this and here's what they had to say about it. Just you
Yep.
can share that
Yep.
openly. It helps people to see the value in what you do. And that is that's the first thing you could do to just get some momentum
Mm-hmm.
where people then see other people worked with this person and liked it. Maybe I can try too. And so I would have done that a little sooner. It didn't take me too long, but that
Yep.
advice really is so helpful. And then definitely, I would say get as clear as you possibly can with your niche also as soon as possible, because again, that helps with marketing. I have learned that as a coach, your actual skill set as a coach is one thing, and that can, to a certain level, speak for itself, but it usually doesn't in the age of the internet. Okay. You need to be able to market it in a way through any sort of channel that you can connect with potential clients: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, podcasts. I mean, everyone's aware of these days.
Yeah.
Learning the skill of marketing what you do and communicating it clearly is invaluable. And I've also learned that some coaches, as a client myself, when I have hired other coaches, there are certain coaches I've worked with that I discovered them through word of mouth or referral, and they are truly so good at what they do. That's the reason why I found out about them. Other coaches, I hired them and I realized they have a really successful business because they're really good at marketing, not the actual delivery of the service. So I think we could spin that in an encouraging way to say, hey, marketing does a lot for your building of a business, and make sure, of course, that it is paired with the skill set. But both of those things really do need to go together if you're going to
Yeah.
make an actual career out of it.
So when you say marketing, would you recommend social media more, or would you say like what do you find now? What works right now? Because 5 years ago,
Yeah,
when did you start your platform?
8 years ago.
I mean, the marketing was probably way different. What would you
Oh, yeah.
recommend now that would work based on what you do currently? What works as a
Yes.
coach?
Yeah, so there are lots of different platforms and all of them can work. It's, I would mostly refine your attention if you're getting started to one platform. Now, this is just my experience, my advice, and a marketing coach, professional expert would maybe say different things. But I have heard the advice and I do agree that if you narrow it down to one or two platforms, that first, your ideal audience hangs out on that platform. That's obviously the most important. Like, don't start advertising on X. If like for me, if I started advertising on X and posting there, ballerinas don't hang out there. They're on Instagram, they're on TikTok. And so I decided I like Instagram. So I'm there. And then I also have a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel, I can recommend either YouTube or podcast, or it's easy to post to both, like just post the audio version on podcast platforms. That's great to supplement something like Instagram or those short form content platforms, because that's really a place where you can show off your expertise really, really well. People can go deep into how you speak. That's where you really feel like you get to know a person very well and their ideas, and you get to hear them explain a concept in detail. So if you're trying to build authority, that can be great. Though Instagram, TikTok, that can also work well too. So yeah, focus on what you shine in. Like, do you really like short form content, little inspirational posts? Long form, I love long form. I kind of have taken a break from it this past year because I wanted to focus more on Instagram. But I know myself, I know I really like explaining concepts in detail in a very conversational way. So you can know both how you like to present your expertise,
Mhm.
but also pair that with an understanding of where your ideal audience hangs out. And then make sure that you communicate or build content around the main topics or main concerns that you really want to help your ideal clients with. When I understood
Mm.
that, the whole idea of like content pillars, it was very, very helpful for my own reach and marketing. Basically, understanding like what are the main 3 to 5 topics that you are really good at talking about and people really resonate with them when you talk about it. And these are ideally things that you would also want to help your ideal client with. That makes it so much more clear, like who you are, what you do, what you're an expert at. And it clarifies a lot how you like what kind of content you want to create too.
Yeah.
So you don't just sit in front of your phone like, what am I doing? I could talk about anything in the world. It stops us
Uh,
from posting about puppies unnecessarily. So that's cute too.
that's cute too. You are so right, because you also want to be comfortable and
Yeah.
confident with what you talk about. So having boundaries and a clear goal of where you're going and what you are, the pillars you're talking about, it's
Yeah.
key. When you build that platform, who did you have to surround yourself with? Did you have people that to this day you think, wow, I'm so glad I had that person in my life? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, well, I was very lucky. I have my twin sister who did end
Yeah.
up building a coaching business as well of her own. She has a very
Okay.
different niche as a career coach. And I decided to go into mindset coaching, or it's also, I'm kind of considering rebranding to mental performance coaching because now that's becoming more of a recognized label. Like when I created this whole thing of like mindset coaching, I didn't know anyone else who was doing it. I'm not saying I was the only one. I just didn't see other people. So I kind of just like made up the term. But anyway, that's another point. So yeah, I was very lucky to build my business alongside my twin sister, and we shared the joys, the wins, like, oh my gosh, I got my first client. I remember how like euphoric and exciting that was because I just
Yeah.
couldn't believe that someone paid me to do this thing that I love to do and it feels easy. And we shared the challenges, and we also shared resources and lessons that we were picking up on, which was super, super helpful. So I would always recommend to people that, yes, having a mentor or a business coach or someone like that, that can absolutely be really wonderful and expedite your growth. But also having someone who is a peer, who is building something similar alongside you, where it's like you're both, you don't want anything out of each other. You're really just supporting each other. That's so great too. So whether it's
Yeah.
finding a friend online or going to a meetup group in your city where it's for coaches or whatever it is you're trying to do, building an online business, you can find someone to be a peer support to you and a friend through that whole process.
I love that you had your twin sister and you're really
Me too.
following the same path. How incredible is this? What would you say was the hardest part about transitioning? So let me share a bit about where I want to go with this. So as artists transitioning out of this stage is already depending how you leave the stage, but can be very, very challenging, can be
Yeah.
beautiful, all the spectrum. But there's also it can be difficult if you don't find a job
Yeah.
like soon, right? Building
Mhm.
a coaching or just opening a business, a coffee shop, a restaurant, anything at all, it takes time. It's not
Yes.
just you get a job next week, the paycheck, you know,
No.
money deposited in your bank account. It does not work like that. So tell us about what did it take for you back then to just keep going? I'm just
Yeah.
assuming that it probably took a few months to get started.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Yeah.
how do you continue? Because again, the reason why I love what you're sharing is artists are so great at many, many different things, and coaching can offer so much because there are a lot of different niches that they can choose to pursue a next career.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking the time to really kind of unpack all of different layers. And it's beautiful. Coaching is beautiful, but also here's the reality. Be prepared,
Yeah.
but do it anyway.
Oh, yeah. I'm happy to talk about that. Yeah. So for me, it took the first year, I really treated any money I made in my business more as a supplement to my income rather than relying on it. And maybe in some ways that held back my growth because I was still teaching ballet and I relied on that to live. And
Yep.
I can highly recommend having some sort of job that you don't have to be so mentally and emotionally invested in. Maybe it's something that it's not that I'm promoting being complacent in your other work or not caring about it. I still put a lot of integrity and effort into teaching ballet. I just knew that I could do it and leave it at the studio. Like I was
Yeah.
totally there when I was teaching and then I could go home. I didn't have to think about it or prepare so much for the lessons. I was just very good at going, making up the combinations, doing it, doing a great job, leaving. So that is what I relied on for my main income when I was first starting my business. And then I found by the second year, I really could rely on it a lot less. And then teaching ballet became the supplement and coaching became more of my primary income. And then by the third year, really coaching could just be my income. And the remaining years after that, it's become a great source of income and I don't have to teach ballet at all if I don't want to. So that's great, but it took time. Like I know some coaches online, they really talk about, I made six figures in my first year. And you know what? I'm so happy for those people. That was not my journey. It took a while to reach that. But I would tell people that don't compare yourself first to people
Mm.
online, especially like if you are trying to get into coaching. I will say I don't want to speak down about people, but business coaching is now a very popular niche. It's very saturated. There are a lot of people doing it. And a part of how a lot of business coaches get clients is they talk about honestly how much money they make and their income claims make them sound like I have made so much money. I know how to be successful. You can too. Like, pay me a lot of money and I'll teach you how to do it too. But realize that if you're trying to go into a niche other than business coaching, their way of going about things isn't going to necessarily apply in your business. And also, please do not compare yourself to people whose marketing centers around income claims. It is very important.
Yeah.
I'm happy for those people, but I used to get really, really, really discouraged. Like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my business? Because I'm 2 years in and I haven't hit that like six-figure income goal, which, people talk about
I'm,
like it's the most money in the world also. And then I will also say I'm very real with people. Like, once I actually started making that and above that, I'm like, yeah, that's just like a good job. That's like a good normal job. But then, the
yeah.
business coach people, I'm so sorry if business coaches are listening and you feel like I'm talking about a certain kind, okay? That I used to compare myself to. And they're like, I go to European vacations 5 times a year. Nah, 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 nah. It's like, okay, well, really, that's, it's not
No.
adding up. So anyway, please don't compare yourself to people who market based off of income claims. If you are doing important work, serving a community that's not this like pyramid scheme of I'm a coach who coaches coaches to coach
Yeah.
coaches, that whole thing, it's going to be a different process for you, but it's really important that you do it. If that's your purpose, if that's on your heart to serve a certain community, do it. You can find a way, persist, have another source of
Mm.
income that steadies you so that you don't have to approach your business from a place of stress and fear and scarcity. That's
Yeah.
super important because honestly, my business was very affected when I realized that if I was in a place of like financial stress and fear and that scarcity mindset, it really did affect the content I made, how I showed up on calls and sales
Mm.
calls and things like that. So I did realize it was very healthy for me to have another source of income so that until I can build it up and build up the coaching
Yeah.
so that I can approach my business in a very level-headed way, not from
Hmm.
fear or like
Hmm.
desperation. So that's another piece of advice I could give people. But yeah, it takes time, but time is okay.
Time is okay. I love that you applied your own coaching on that one.
Yeah, I know.
You wanted to have a great mindset in order to coach people to have a good mindset.
I know. I know. Please, I hope I didn't offend anyone who is a business coach. I am not saying all business coaches are like that. I just used to struggle comparing myself a lot and I feel like it needs to be said for certain people who might have a journey similar to mine, but not all business coaches are bad or unethical. I've hired them
No.
and some have been wonderful.
And Kirsten, I think for some of us, that I know exactly what you're talking about when you go on
Yeah,
social media and
know.
those income claim. I know, and we see it. And there's
Yeah.
part of me where we kind of sense like, well, did that really happen? So I do not apologize. I think you're saying out
Thank you.
loud
You
what a
understand.
lot of people think. 100%. When you transitioned out of the stage, obviously you were teaching, so you had that
Hmm.
buffer of still, being very much connected to the art, very much.
Hmm.
Tell us about that identity that you had as a
Yeah.
dancer. Thankfully, it was not the door shut and then you got to find something else immediately.
Hmm.
It sounds like you allowed yourself to transition. So it was, I cannot assume that it was easy. So please tell us, how
No.
was that? Was it, how was that identity of a dancer that now was
Hmm.
transitioning to being a coach and all of that?
Yeah. Yeah, well, since dancing professionally did end very abruptly for me, that part, the identity shift happened even when I was still going through the injury and I was kind of in denial about like maybe this chapter of my life that just started is coming to a close. And that was so sad and so painful. But I realized that even during the injury recovery process before I had even really committed to, okay, I need to stop dancing professionally and I need to find something else. I had already started to sort through like, okay, dance cannot be my whole identity. I really have to find who I am apart from that,
Yeah.
which was difficult, but also really freeing. I started to understand that as this was actually a post that I made a few years ago. And it turns out so many people liked it and shared it because I think it really touched on something important. I said the little quote I made was that dance isn't all of who we are. It is a medium of expression in which parts of us feel welcome to come out. So parts of us that might feel very central to who we are feel welcome to come out in our art form.
Hmm.
But it's
Hmm.
important to frame it as some big parts of who you are feel very welcomed in dance. But I found it was really helpful to use that framework to then say, okay, well, what have been the parts of myself that I feel like I kind of have to put away when I dance? And that was so clarifying and helpful for kind of discovering a more holistic view of who I am. I realized I love to talk. I love to talk about deep ideas. I love to be silly. I love I love I love helping people. These are things that are really important about myself that it's not necessarily bad that those things kind of were more on the back burner when I was dancing, but it just was. Those got to be things that I explored more fully and freely after I stopped dancing. So it gave me something to look forward to. Though then when I did start to coach, I realized that I needed to find a new outlet for the parts of myself that felt very welcome in dance. Like
Hmm.
the very expressive side of me, the performer side of me. also the part of me that, like I said, loves people. I always loved the camaraderie of dance, like showing up in the morning to the studio and talking to my friends before class and making jokes between rehearsals and laughing. I realized in hindsight that was one of my favorite parts. So I grieved that for a while, that I wouldn't have that same place necessarily or way of expressing that part of myself. But I always think, okay, instead of focusing on, I don't have that same way of life anymore, that worked very well for me. I thought, how can I create a new space for that part of me to come out and feel fulfilled?
Mm.
And so then I just really channeled more energy into finding community where I live and building different types of communities instead of just in dance. But then I also found a dance community here where I live in Austin. So it took some time, but just realize for anyone listening, if you're struggling with that identity shift, that it's really useful, like I said, to explore the parts of yourself that maybe didn't feel so active in your performing career, even if it's hard to discover, like you'll find something. And then out of the parts of yourself that did feel very active in your time as an artist, how can you find new ways to express that? And just realize there will always be more to you
Mhm.
than what you have done as a performer. If you think
Yeah.
that was all that you are, it's a problem with your imagination, not that that was literally all that you are.
Yeah.
There's just more to explore. But I would say everyone, like, really have patience and grace for yourself to sometimes say, I don't know. And just sit in
Mm.
that. That's okay. Like, you're discovering. You won't have like all the big existential answers. Who am I in this new season of life? Like, you won't
Mhm.
have it right away, but that's also part of the good part of
Mm.
these transitional times.
Yes. So well said.
Thank you.
Thank you. What's next for you, Kirsten?
What is next to me? I feel like I've been saying this for years. When people ask me this, I say more of the same, but better. I keep saying that because, like, honestly, I like what I'm doing. And so I just think I'll do more of the same things I'm already doing. Like, I'll coach more dancers. I always want to be working with more professional dancers at high caliber ballet companies. That's my passion. But I do work with all sorts of dancers, like commercial dancers in LA and Broadway dancers in New York. And I love that too. Or musical theater in the UK, like people everywhere, all sorts of
Yeah.
genres of dance, a tango dancer. So I work with all sorts of dancers, but I always think like, okay, how can I reach more people at an even higher and more influential
Mhm.
level so that the kind of work that I'm doing is introduced into bigger spaces like the world's best ballet companies? And how do I speak at those places? Because I do speaking in addition to coaching. So I just think of expanding my influence and making this work more normal. Like, I don't want to be
Mhm.
the only person who's doing it. And thank goodness I'm not. There are actually plenty more coaches doing what I'm doing now. And that's a good thing to see because it validates that there is a demand for this and people are starting to see the value even more and more. And the more of us that do it, it's kind of like with therapy. Like, a therapist doesn't have to describe what they do anymore because it's quite normal
Yeah.
that people know what it is and they take advantage of that resource. So you could just say, I'm a therapist, and people get it. When I started coaching and calling it mindset coaching for dancers, people were like, what is that? Which is fine.
Yeah.
Like, I can explain. That's cool. But now I say like one sentence about it, and people are like, yeah, that's awesome. Great. Yeah, I know about this other person who's doing it.
Mm.
Sometimes, not often, will people say that. But so I want more influence, more impact, and just in bigger and better spaces, I guess. But we'll see.
Yes,
I don't know.
yes.
Maybe I'll get a new idea for something else I'll create.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, where can we find you?
So I am at theconfidentdancer.com. If you want to learn
Yeah.
more about my work and my services, I do one-on-one coaching, like I said, speaking at dance schools, universities, companies, and I also have some online courses as well for mastering the mental side of dance. That's always my little catchphrase. So yeah, performers of any kind can really take advantage of those resources because honestly, I specialize in working with dancers, but performers of all kinds have the exact same challenges. So
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, that's where I am on in terms of my website. But On Instagram, I'm Kirsten_the Confident Dancer. And then I also have a YouTube channel and a podcast under The Confident Dancer. So basically Google The Confident Dancer and I'll come up.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You are so inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for everything you do for the community. Again, I know I've mentioned that at the beginning, but you make a huge difference. And
thank you.
Thank you for everything you do and for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for this conversation, Eve, and for giving me an opportunity to share my story.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Recast and Rise. If today's story made a difference, share it with a fellow artist and creative friend. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast and follow me on my socials for tips and tricks to navigate your career change. Until next time, I will see you in the next episode.